Hey guys, hey. Good afternoon. It's wonderful to be back here again for another segment in this wonderful experience of Impact Youth Leadership Summit. We are joining you again with a special guest who is going to be making a presentation to you. And I'm sure you're anticipating this young man's presentation. Arnold is here as well. Arnold, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be back, and I see that we have an exciting rush to the finish. You know, when you get to the end of a track meet or anything, the most exciting
Yes.
races are at the end of the day.
it, it will be an exciting finish. I see Nadeen just joined us as well
Yes.
here on Zoom. So thank you, Nadeen. So we're gonna go right
Mhm.
into Michael Roy's speech, and then we're going to be having some music from Dr. Kev with his saxophone, and Shane should be joining us after that. But while we're waiting, we're going to entertain ourselves. Okay, so go ahead with the introduction.
All right. So Michael Roy Miller is an analyst with Goldman Sachs. Now that's big. Michael Roy Miller attended Monroe College, where he obtained a bachelor's in business administration in accounting, graduated summa cum laude, and attended Iona College, where he earned a master's in business administration and public accounting and graduated with honors. Worked in Big Four accounting at EY, and he also held a position in a publicly traded bank for just over 2 years in anti-money laundering services as a member of the Young Scholars Initiative of the Institute of New Economic Thinking. That's New York-based economic think tank, and that's two parts of the CPA exam passed and two pending. So he has two under his belt and two more that he is about to pass. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Michael Roy Miller.
Hey guys, I just want to thank you for having me on today. Thanks for the intro. So I kind of just wanted to touch on one thing, mainly, and just culture in general. So I feel as time has gone by, there are cultural shifts, things that we deem important shift alongside with the times, and I feel like we have found ourselves in some convoluted trap of in the cycle of consumption where any further down this road, we're sure for a certain destruction. And I just wanted to kind of reinforce the idea of net investment. So within life, there are pros and cons of doing anything, and it's beneficial to kind of weigh those out the gate, especially as a person in their earlier stages of life, or even the latter portions of life, and even going through the middle portion of life. It's just important to kind of keep those things in front of you, keep those pros and cons, and to make sure that what you're actually doing is really beneficial to you and you're not wasting more than you're gaining from it. And I think that kind of seeps into other parts of your life, whether it be financially and relationship building. You kind of just have to always be directed in what you want to do, get that net investment instead of net expense. And especially from a financial perspective, I feel that with the advent of technology and things that are more available at your fingertips, you can buy stuff in virtually a fraction of a second, where it doesn't take much thought or even much human capability to execute the transaction, that we've gotten caught into this trap of just mindlessly purchasing goods that we don't actually need. And as a person in the earlier stages of life, we fall victim to this a great bit. And, it's just kind of important for us to keep that in mind that, it's not just a purchase when we really think about it. When you go to work, you work 8 hours a day, sometimes even more. And to sit there and purchase an item that consumes basically a day of working, when you really take a step back and think about it, is it really worth it? And just even the way we live our lives, just thinking about, oh, what's that next step that I'm going to take? You know, that higher education, does it provide me the net benefit that I actually need to get over the hump or even help people, you know, get accomplish what they want to accomplish, and just taking a more holistic view of things instead of just thinking of things so siloed, and essentially connecting the dots on how we live our lives. And you know, your financial constraints kind of spill over into your relationships, because whether we want to admit it or not, a great deal of our life and our happiness is tied to some financial incentive. I mean, you hardly can enjoy much, you know, in this world, this day and this in these current times, without actually, you know, spending some form of money, whether it be for entertainment, consumption, or even just clothing, shelter, etc. So you have to be cognizant of those things, because it spills over into your life, and you don't want those things negatively impacting your relationships with individuals where, you know, you can't necessarily see them in a positive light because there's so many financial constraints going on in your life. And I just wanted to reinforce that idea amongst, you know, people my age.
Okay. Thank you. That was quick. Can we ask some questions? Arnold, are you still there? So
Yeah, I'm good for questions if you have any.
all right. So Arnold, I caught you off guard.
I know.
Didn't expect him to finish that fast. So Michael Roy, I noticed you were talking about spending money, like using your whole day's pay to buy one item that you don't even need. What that means, and you know, spending that money is not just, it's not just, you can't just look at money that way. You have to have a different attitude towards money, because you're spending from your savings that you should have to use 20 years down the road or something. When you waste the money today, you're wasting money that you should be saving or investing for future, basically. Where you get that concept from?
I mean, I've just always lived by that, you know, because when you think about it, when you go to work, you're literally giving a piece of yourself to get this money, you know, whether it be your energy, your mental capacity, or even your spiritual capacity. And money, it's much deeper than just an item at that point, where you've literally given your life, you know, your time of your day to accomplish this, to just throw it away
Right.
on something you may not necessarily need. It's kind of mind-boggling. And you know, you get thrown into this trap that you may necessarily not be able to get out, because you're not really looking at it like that. So a more holistic view on how we spend would definitely impact our lives in a better way.
Yes. And you know, one interesting thing I saw last week, someone posted, I don't remember it verbatim, but the essence of it is that money is the bribe that you get paid to forget your own dream.
Yep.
You know, and the moment you start looking at it from that perspective, you realize that okay, so we spend a lot of time to do. We've been taught the way to live is simple. You go to school, you learn, and you do well so you can get a good job. You know, but in the end, when you look, you realize that you have some other friend or just somebody you admire or look up to, and you realize that their goal was never to go to school, will learn in order to get a good job, but in order to own the company.
Yeah,
Right. And
it's crazy.
so another example I saw, and it's funny. I mean, we see a lot of foolishness on Facebook, but we also pick up some nuggets from time to time, where it says that here's one guy. Okay, the two people have the same job. They get paid the same amount. One is out there, you know, partying and showing off all kinds of flashy stuff and wearing the latest gear, right? Okay. And so everybody's looking and say, yo, this guy, yeah, something happening for him. While the other one puts aside 50% of his salary or 30%, and he's just going, you know, he's not dressing fancy and all of that. And the world thinks that the other guy is winning.
Yeah.
So until we come to realize that it is what we're able to set aside for ourselves, and especially for young people. I remember one of a vice president with the university I'm with. We were in a meeting. Well, the meeting hadn't started, and there was some conversation about insurance and investments and so on. And she turned to the two youngest people in the room and said, "Look, you see, you two, you have two words. I have two words for you: compounding interest.
Yep.
At your young age, what you can do with this much, I can't accomplish with this at my age." So it's about time we had that conversation, these conversations like we're having now, Michael, with people who are just coming out of high school, to help them to understand where the power lies. Time
Hmm.
is more important than the wad of cash.
Yeah. And
It's
Yeah.
what you can do over time.
I don't think there's enough emphasis on accumulating wealth.
No, there isn't.
You know,
No, because I mean, it's more about the spending.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's been
it's
a
more
culture
about what
shift,
you
you know.
can bling out with, not about what you can keep, you know?
Yep.
And so what would you tell young people about saving? We're talking in this segment about education being the equalizing opportunity. And you took that from a financial standpoint of educating people. Um, how do you see us changing things around to bring ourselves up as a community that we have wealth?
I mean, you could kind of attack that one twofold. From an education perspective, it's just, being diligent. And then from another perspective, or just a personal moral, like a moral standing, it's just
Uh-huh.
being cognizant of the future. I mean, there are generations to come behind you. You can't just spend it all without regard for what your children might have. And, the more, and I wanted to just like make that distinction between education and just going to school, because a lot of people went to school and they're not necessarily educated.
Right.
So it's just, applying that knowledge that you've heard or even learned into your actual life.
Mhm.
That's the key benefit of education, and what I believe is the true definition of education. And from a financial perspective, I mean, if you think about it at this age, I know Arnold just mentioned it, like compounding interest is really a powerful thing. If you save $1, it goes a far way 30 years from now. If it's growing at 1%, you'd be surprised to know what you could do with it
Mhm.
30 years from now. But I think people just try to hit home runs out the gate. They want to, oh, if I get $10,000, then I'll start saving. If I get 10,000, then I'll invest. When you could literally start with just $1. A lot of brokerages, a lot of CDs, savings accounts, you know, they let you start with literally $1. And we'd rather spend that dollar on consumption rather than investing in our future, which is it's kind of scary when you really think about it.
Very scary, and bad habit. Is it that well, I'm asking the question, but I know the answer. We children are not taught the responsibility of savings and just the real value of money. That you don't run out and spend every red penny you get. You should try to keep it. The people who raise their kids like that, they don't have a big problem later with savings. Arnold, is that your experience?
Mhm. Children, you see, children live what they learn.
Yeah.
And if we get to where we help a child to understand that what you have now, and I'm very proud to say, well, last week, Tennyson, my 10-year-old Tennyson, he said he started to understand the idea of saving and understanding that you can, money will grow. And he got some money, and he told his mother exactly what he wanted to do with it. What is that? He wanted to open an account.
Mm-hmm.
And he was even asking some questions that was puzzling his sister. It's like, um how much US is this?
Yeah.
how much US, because he's
Thinking US
beginning to
dollar, he's
understand.
thinking Jamaican dollars because he already knows that it will devalue if he keeps it in Jamaican currency.
So what I'm saying is, if you gently break it to them, if you slowly, bring it across, don't try to dump everything on them at once, because look, it's foreign language,
Yeah.
right? It's a foreign language, and so they will learn it just by you breaking it to them in a simple way. Find games, even games. Now there are a lot of online games, and many of them are a waste of time. There are educational games that will help children to understand money
Mhm.
and how it works. I wish I had the information that I now have. I wish I had that when I was even 12, 13 years old.
Right.
Yeah, maybe I wouldn't have had the money to do anything with it then, but the moment I started working, I would have known what to do. My
Imagine
first
if
years of working,
a, po-
there
a,
are things that I would have done, but I didn't have the information. I
right.
didn't know.
Imagine if you were saving 10% of your salary from the time you started working to now. Mm?
10, 3%, or even 5%.
Yeah. 1%. 1 day, 1% daily.
Yes,
So
yes.
Jenny Vaz has joined us back in here. So feel free to ask questions.
Ah,
Jenny, I noticed you posted something in the group. We're talking to Michael Roy about finance. He's a finance whiz. And Nadine is also here. And Nadine, feel free to join the
hey,
conversation
Nadine.
if you want to. Um, Dr. Kev is also here in the building, and he will do his performance again after we're done with this little segment of conversation. But
So what can asking questions about issues related to finance and investment and so on, right?
yes, yes.
So I guess the question I'm asking is, now I'm thinking of, or I shouldn't be confined to that area, the area, New Market, that area of St. Elizabeth, and just, you're talking about lack of financial education and financial education for people who feel as if they don't have enough. Like, what is the strategy for people who live in subsistence condition to change the concept of wealth? Um, that exists, because when I was growing up, certainly we weren't thinking of wealth in the way that you were talking about, accumulation of wealth, and how perhaps you can move from a situation of relative poverty to one where you have enough money. You never heard of things like Jamaica Stock Exchange. You never heard
It's
things
there, but
about,
we don't listen. Tilt your camera a little bit. You're losing half of your head.
right? We certainly never heard enough about the investment opportunities, and they seem too far removed from to be a reality. How do we change that dynamic and get people to participate actively in situations where they can create their own wealth?
Michael, you have any suggestion about that?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question, and thank you for posing that one. So, you know, the thing about poverty, it forces you into this kind of attitude of immediacy where you feel like you need everything right now. When that isn't necessarily the case, where some things can be prolonged. And Jenny actually touched on a little bit where, the whole borrowing concept, where in poverty you tend to borrow a lot more than you probably should. You outpace your income with your borrowing by far, which you have to be cognizant in the future. At some point, those debts will come due and you have to pay that back. So it's just encouraging that idea once again of net investment, where I get it, you may be poor, but if you put that money together, you know, and think about the future generations, then they won't have to live through that. But if you just think about, I need this money now, I need to buy this now, I need to eat tomorrow, it's kind of, it goes nowhere, because you
Mhm.
eat a meal, that's fine. You ate for today, but what about tomorrow? What's next? And you kind of lose sight of those things when you're in poverty, but it's just keeping those things out in front of you, where thinking about the future is more important than what necessarily matters today.
Yeah. So understanding that, what kind of advice would you give to individuals in terms of what, because there are times when the banks will just hold these loans, out to you, and who doesn't want an extra, you get an email that says, hey, you could get up to $50,000, or you could get up to $200,000 to borrow. to do whatever it is you want to do. What are the things that you would say to persons, especially young people? Yes, borrow money for this if this is what you're doing with it, but for that and that and that, forget it.
Yeah. I mean, borrowing money is not a bad thing. I don't want it to come across like that where, borrowing is like absolutely a no, but it's just like you said, touching on what you're borrowing for. If you're borrowing for personal consumption, that's not really, that's not really beneficial to you. It's just if you're borrowing for investment purposes, which is that net investment where the benefits outweigh the cost over the long term. It's just staying away from those credit cards. Those store credit cards that entice you. Oh yeah, you get 25% off if you use this card, but the price, it was originally that price anyway. Let's just be honest. They're not going to give you a discount and give up on their money. It's just the way the world works. But it's kind of just staying cognizant of your actual circumstance and if you can afford those things and just keeping those in front of you. You don't need a master's, a doctorate, and finance to figure out what you can afford. What you can afford. You see your bank account every day. You know what's in your pocket, and you can kind of just calculate it that way. Just keeping those things out in front of you, so you know what you're doing.
So in other words, if you're buying tools for farming or for your hairdressing business to set up something that's going to pay you back.
Yeah.
Like I don't most money I have now into my business because I always tell that's my pension.
Yeah, that's how it should be. It's that idea. You got to keep that on the front.
Yeah.
Your goal is to build sustainable income where you're not required to work and your money is actually working for you. Now, right now, if you're in a state where this is where you are just right now, in this current moment, you're paying the bills. That's the best that you can do. You know that eventually this is not permanent. You can't stay in this position for too long because no one wants to be in that position for too long. Let's face it, we will not accept that reality. We will fight. That's just our will to fight. And so we're going to find a second job or we're going to get another way to at least increase that. And by that few dollars that you get to save, put it away in a jar. Don't touch it. Make that your emergency cash. And eventually you build these reserves. And next thing you know, you open that jar and holy moly, there's $500 in there. How did I even do that? And that's what you do. You accumulate income and then eventually you put that into a plan, into something that works for you, even when you're not working.
Right.
That takes care of you. And that's what you want. You want leveraged income. And I think it's not impossible. It will be hard at the beginning. It will require that sacrifice, that push. And there will be days you're like, why am I even doing this? Why am I putting myself through this? This is so freaking painful. Deciding whether I need to pay rent or do I eat. It's painful, those decisions. I've been there. I know what that feels like. But you will get through this. You will get through this. By God's grace, you will get through this. So yeah, keep pushing for that.
Let's pause on this. Anybody here rushing? Michael, you rushing off?
Yeah, I actually have to drop. So I definitely appreciate you guys taking the time out to talk to me. I hope to do this one day again. And you can probably throw some time on it. I'll be more than happy to drop in and talk a little bit.
Give us the financial talk.
Yeah. Whatever you need me to talk about, I can help.
Big man talk. All right, we let you go.
All right, I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you so much. Somebody in the group says, let me read this before you run. Yes, children these days only want to wear name brand, which is making someone rich while they poor because while they become poor. It's good to wear good stuff, but in a while it is in your closet, not knowing what to do with. My mom always tells us save for rainy day. I did that. Now I am retired and enjoying my retirement. Says
there we go,
Paula Bailey. Good.
There we go.
But the question is, why do the children crave these things? It's because of what they see.
They watch too much TV.
Social media.
But who are they watching?
I wear good. I try to wear good clothes, but don't think I shop every day. The clothes I have, I wear them about 10 years. Them still going and more. Yep. If I don't like get bigger and my friends come and clean up my closet or one of my relatives, I don't lose clothes. They just stay there and accumulate because they're usually good quality and they stay for good for years and years and years and years. So yeah, you have to be smart about those things. Thank you, Michael Roy. We'll catch up another time. We'll bring you into another forum, New Market, and we discuss more about finances because we need to get our people thinking different. We're gonna so we'll catch up, Michael. We're gonna have coming in because he's waiting to do a musical segment, and then we will start a discussion with Nadeen and Jen.
This event is sponsored by Ev McLilly Teas. Visit evmclillyteas.com for the finest herbal teas sourced from mainly small organic farms all over the world. To make your purchase, go to evmclilly.com, that's evmclilley.com, or WhatsApp 347-995-6556. That's 347-995-6556.